Hello, JPR Modern Real Estate. Today we are going to talk about starting a transaction in dotloop. This is obviously one of the most important things we can do. That means potentially we got compensation coming down the road so it's a very exciting moment. What you don't want to do is be stuck trying to figure out how to use this system when you actually have a contract going. So we're going to go over the basic operation of just getting a transaction started. Number one, when you log into your dotloop account, just remember always look for the JPAR premium. That way you know you're connected to the correct account. And that's about all you're going to need to do to make sure you are in the JPAR account. Next thing you're going to do on your home page is you're going to hover over to add a loop and you're going to click on that. Now, that loop is going to start off with just a basic field area where you can either type in a property address or you can type in a MLS. If you have the address, for example, if I type in 8230 West 67th, you're going to see here that there is a listed one and then there's a Google Maps. Now, never take an MLS one unless you're writing an offer for a buyer on an MLS property or you've already listed the property in the MLS. The reason being is if I click on this now, it's going to import old information from an old listing or potentially a listing that I've already had. It's going to open up that account. So we want to make sure that at the beginning, if you're just on the listing side and you haven't even put it in the MLS yet, which this is the way this should flow. You should always have an exclusive right before you add it to the MLS. We want to just look for the Google Maps version of it. If you are going off the MLS and it is a buyer or you've already listed it, that's fine. Go ahead and using the MLS. That'll actually give you the option to import some data off of the MLS. In this case, we're just going to click the Google Maps and we're going to hit continue. The next thing and most important thing is designating what loop you actually are going to use. Okay. This is important because the loop you use will determine what your checklist is. And every listing has a checklist. The reason that's very, very important is because if you're a dotloop contract user, meaning you're writing your contracts in dotloop, it'll put the forms that you're probably going to use right in your system. And it'll also give you placeholders for forms that you think you're going to receive from the other side of the transaction. If you are a CTME user, we will have a video for that, but you're just going to use all of the forms and all the checklist as a placeholder, meaning that you're going to upload your documents and then replace the dotloop documents with your CTME documents. So in this case, we're going to call this a listing residential seller. Probably your most popular ones are going to be your buyer residential resale, your listing residential seller, and then potentially buyer new construction. And we have ones for manufactured homes, for land, for commercial, all that stuff. Clicking the right loop template is very important. In this case, again, we are going to do listing residential seller. Can hit continue. It will upload a photo if there is one on the MLS. If not, you can put one in there. It doesn't do a whole lot for the system, just makes it look a little bit prettier on your end. When you're done with that, we're going to hit done and it's finishing creating the loop. Now, once it's done doing that, you can enter in some basic information. So in this case, if it's a pre-listing, I haven't got it on the market yet, I can hit that. You've also have a private listing. If it's not going to the market, it's just going to be advertised inside the brokerage. Active listing is obviously that. It's an active listing on the MLS, under contract, withdrawn, sold, and terminated. So normal options that we're used to seeing in the MLS. In this case, we're going to do a pre-listing. Then we can go ahead and put in the price. I'll just put in $1 million for now. And then if you had it under contract, if you're a buyer and you wrote the offer and you're under contract, say you use CTME, you want to enter your closing date here. But in this case, just a pre-listing, don't have a closing date. After that, I'm going to click on View Loop, and that's going to take me to the loop. And you're going to see that it's got the address up top. It's got the basic information we just entered. It also has all of our required and optional documents that you're going to need to complete your transaction. In the middle is a list of our local preferred vendors. And then down at the bottom are going to be all the people in the transactions. And then at the end, there are different tasks that you can upload into your system if you prefer. Whenever I start a transaction, I always like to start in the view details section because you can take a lot of the information that's needed, put it in there, and it's going to help with the process. The system relies on a few things in order to complete the loop, and that's going to be having the correct contracts in there. And remember, all contracts that are executed need to be uploaded into the system, not just the ones that say required. Required is only for when you're getting a CDA. In order to get that CDA in time, you have to satisfy all the minimum requirements of the file, but all documents need to be uploaded there. But down the bottom, you also need to have your people, right? So if you're on the transaction, you need to have your clients' names, phone numbers, and emails. You need to have the co-op broker's name, company name, phone number, emails, title company's name, company name, phone numbers, emails, and then the co-op portion. So whether it's a buyer or a seller on the buyer or seller on the other side, we just need to have their names in there, and you want to make sure they're labeled correctly. So in this case, I am the agent, and it's always going to start me here. Now, if I was a listing agent, it would always automatically default me to listing agent, but you want to make sure that your people are always organized correctly and labeled correctly, because signature fields and parts of the contract that need to be filled out will be based on how they're labeled. So in this case, I am the listing agent. And let's just say I'm going to add my wife as the seller. So I would type in her name. And of course, I have her in my contacts, so I can add her right there. And then I can click on seller, and now she's going to be one of my sellers. It's really important to, again, have that correct information in there as much as you can. Always great to have in your contracts. The add to my team button should only be used if it's someone who's truly on your team. You do not use it for clients. You do not use it for co-op brokers or anyone who's not on your team. Your team could consist of your TC, your transaction coordinator. It could consist of a co-op broker that's helping you, or not a co-op broker, but a co-list broker that's going to help you either on the buy side or sell side. Once you click this button and you hit add person, they're going to be able to see everything in your file, every contract, everything you do. So it's really important that this is never clicked unless it is someone who's actually partnering with you on the deal, a professional. I'm going to go ahead and add person, and it's going to add them to there. I want to make sure they're labeled correctly, and I can go and continue adding as many people as I can. Now, at the beginning of a listing, you're probably just going to have your sellers, your title company, just some basic information. If you're on the buy side and you're under contract, you're probably going to have the buyers, sellers, title company, mortgage, could be home inspectors. The more people you have in here, the better it is. Then we're going to scroll down and we're going to start making sure that the information is correct. Now, this is the most important part. For number one, it does convert this information over to the cover sheet, which allows you to get paid at closing. It also does give us a lot of good data that we're able to process and use. And more importantly, if you're using dotloop as your contracts program, it's going to take a lot of this data and automatically put it in your contract. So make sure everything looks correct. The financial section will be the section that really converts your cover sheet into a CDA. So you want to make sure that everything in here is correct. If you have client credits, if your clients are paying fees in addition to compensation, whatever it is, you have a space in here. If there's a referral, there's always a space and a name. As accurate as you can get, you want to go ahead and do that, because again, this data will be imported into your cover sheet. If you don't have it all at once, or you don't know for sure, or maybe it changes down the road, you can always just update the cover sheet or update this information in the details page and then update whatever form you're going to use. Next will be contract dates. Your contract agreement date, that's the date you go under contract with the property. So the property has a buyer and a seller. The next will be the closing date, which is self-explanatory. And then your rep agreement date is going to be the day that you signed your exclusive right. This date should always be the same or earlier as the day you wrote the contract, because we're not allowed to write contracts without having an exclusive right. Next will be your contract info. Don't worry too much about anything other than which side you're representing. Now, there is an option, if you're going to represent both sides, you get an unrepresented buyer come in, you can actually do that. Whether you have agency with them or not, you would select both. Most of the time, you're going to treat the other person as a customer if they're not represented. And then the last will be the deal source. Is it my own lead, team provided lead, brokerage provided lead, OpCity, mentorship, whatever it is. You want to put that in there. The next couple sections will be specifically for your contracts. So the more information you have in here, the more information will be put into your contract itself. Now, you're going to see a lot of things in here that don't make sense for Colorado, but keep in mind that this is a nationwide product. So a lot of contracts in other states do have these items. So we want to make sure that we, just you can ignore the ones that don't really apply, but fill out as much detail as you can. Same with the geographic area. We don't really have MLS areas. We have legal descriptions. We don't have map grid areas, but we might have subdivisions and things like that. Legal description is very important when it's time to produce documents. Then you've got some basic property information, and once you fill that out, you can save. Now that's really helped you get the transaction started. That's put a lot of basic information into the system itself, and when you go back to your loop, and you start producing documents, all of your information will be there. So that's how you get a transaction started. I hope you get a lot out of this video. And as always, if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to us and let us